Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video we're going to cover both public and private settings. A settings file where you can store things like your API keys or just information that you need to access either on the client side or on the server side. So let's get going on that now. Okay, so now that we have some parameterized routing that we did in the last video, you'll notice like I've already these anchor links. It's just a technique I wanted to show, not actually part of this application, right? So let's go ahead and let's talk about the public and private settings available to us in Meteor. Now, one thing we could do is head to our application, and in our My Resolution, so the root of our project, let's go ahead and create a new file. Now this new file can be really anything you want it to be named. It can be named settings, it can be named dev settings or whatever. You can have multiple ones of these settings files anyways. We can just say settings.json because keep it nice and simple here, and let's go ahead and talk about what is going on in this file. So settings.json is a file that allows you to have site-wide variables and settings that can be either accessed publicly on the client or privately on the server. Now, all we have to have in here is an object, and inside of this object we want another object that's going to with the key of public. Now, anything in public, we do colon, anything within here is going to be publicly available. For instance, let's just say test and give test a value of hello. This is going to be available on the front end of our site. Let's go ahead and just copy this object, put a comma in here, and paste it in. And in this object, instead of public, we're going to have private. Now, this is going to be set as p-test, okay? So private test. Hello, private. Okay, so this is going to be a good example. You can see just how cool this file is. One thing to note about your settings.json file though is do not commit this file to your repository if you have API keys or sensitive information here. Now this file is great for storing sensitive information. It's where you want to store all of your API keys and stuff like that. So don't commit this to your repo. You don't want those keys inside of there if you're working with GitHub. Okay, so after that little disclaimer, let's go ahead and actually try to access one of these variables. And we can do that just by coming to our application. Let's come here and let's come to our console. And we're going to hit an error doing this. So we can access these through meteor.settings. And now we could say .public. And then obviously we had a setting that was test. Now check this out. This will not work right now. It's going to give you undefined. However, what we need to do is restart our Meteor server. So let's head to our command line. Let's do Control-C to stop this. And now we want to say Meteor, but let's pass this in with some flags here. The flag we want is --, settings, space, and then we need to pass in our settings file. So let's say you had a dev settings file. This would be dev settings. Since we only have one, it's just settings.json. Enter. And what Meteor is going to do now is it's going to load up your site with these settings. Now, a lot of people use this to have multiple settings files for different settings for production or development. Let's say you want a test API key to be running. Let's say you have an e-commerce site, like a Stripe e-commerce site or something, and you want your test API key to allow you to do test purchases, but only on your dev server. Well, you could have two different settings files and have your development settings be loaded this way, and then when you move to production, you could load up your other settings file. Okay, so we now have our app running, and it's going to be running with our settings file. Let's head back, and let's run that same command, meteor.settings.public.test. And this time we get output hello. Now we remember we had this other variable, which is private p-test. Let's check this out. We can do settings.private.ptest, and keep in mind that this data is saved in the same exact file. Enter. Cannot read ptest of undefined. Private variables are not available on the client. Let's just simply head to any of these. We'll just do this one because this file is going to get loaded no matter what. And we can console.log, and let's say meteor.settings.private.ptest. Okay. This is going to be the brilliance of the settings file. Okay. So we're now console logging this settings from our private, and we're doing this from within our server folder. So this code's only going to get run server side. And you'll notice if we head to our command line that's running our actual server, we say hello private whenever the application restarts. So that's pretty sweet, right? I mean, we now have access to having information that's withheld from the client side but can be accessed on the server. Cool, so this is the Meteor Settings file. This is a great place to put things like your Google Analytics IDs and stuff like that. You could put this in here, your API keys, your public keys, your test keys, any of that stuff. So only put data that you want to be able to be made public in your public settings, and information that you want to be made private in your private settings. Cool, so as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. In the next video, I'm going to show you a great way to make your site even more secure. So keep watching, lots more videos on the way, along with some exclusive videos for people who've purchased this series on store.leveluptutorials.com.